council meeting. I'd especially like to welcome our two new councillors, Councillor Paddy Mooney and Councillor Margaret Gorringe. I hope you enjoy your first council meeting. But as you know, it's very, very hot in here, so any gentleman or lady with a jacket can remove their jacket. And we will be having a break part way through the meeting, so we can go and get some fresh air. Did you not hear that? I'll start again, and I'll shout, okay? I'd like particularly to welcome Councillor Paddy Mooney and Councillor Margaret Gorringe to their first council meeting, and I hope you enjoy it sitting in this heat. Anyone with a jacket can remove one whenever they like, and we will have a break partway through the meeting when we can go outside and get some fresh air. Have we got any apologies?
Apologies have been received from Councillor Major, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Apothecary, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Orrell, Councillor Beer, Councillor Jeans and Councillor Haynes, and we have Councillor Somper, Councillor Webb and Councillor Atwell joining us online.
Thank you. Item 2, is it your wish that I approve the minutes of the last meeting? Everyone happy? Thank you. Item 3, are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 4, we're going to have a short presentation from the Youth Council. Jane, would you like to lead that?
So thank you very much for allowing us to be here again this evening. Unfortunately, we haven't got as many young people with us as we had planned, but my lovely Seren is here to deliver a short presentation for you. We just really wanted to give you a little update on what the Dorset Youth Council have been working on, and we have our campaign ready to go now, and we wanted to share it with you. So we've got a short presentation with a few slides. Right. Okay.
Who's reading what? Am I reading it?
Yes, I think so.
Nice.
I sort of threw this at Seren just now, so.
So we're from the Dorset Youth Council, as you probably
Can you
know. Okay, wait. Okay, so we're from the Dorset Youth Council, and we've put together kind of our plan for the year?
Campaign.
Our campaign
Yep.
for the year. It's Young Voices, Better Dorset.
Next slide, please. So this is almost like our mission statement, almost to say this is what we feel Dorset Youth Council is Council is about.
We believe Dorset should be a place where every young person is heard, valued, and empowered to shape the services that affect their lives. Together with Dorset Council, we are building a future that reflects our ideas, needs, and ambitions.
So this came about from a couple of the candidates that stood for Member of Youth Parliament that felt their campaigns were about empowering young people and giving young people more opportunity and availability to, or access to having their voices heard. And then one of our young people went and spoke to one of our corporate directors who was employed 2 years ago, and the young person had sat on the interview panel and wanted to almost do a follow-up, which was absolutely brilliant. So it all sort of tied in, and we talked about, as a team, about not holding the council to accountability, but actually working with the council and how young people can be supporting the council and how the council can be supporting the young people. So this is our mission statement. This is what we think DYC is about. And then from this, we've put together a campaign. So that's on the next slide, please.
So our campaign from 2026 to 2028 is well-being matters just as much as grades do. Every young person should have access to lifelong skills that help manage stress, reduce anxiety, and supports their mental health.
So what we've done already is we've looked at and thought about what are those lifelong skills, and what programme we might be able to put together, drawing on the skills and the skill set within the council immediately, to be able to support our young people. So we've got a bit of a plan, haven't we?
We do.
Next
We do.
slide, please.
So these are our steps to success, which we are going to carry out through the course of our campaign. We've got phase 1, gathering evidence and listening to young people, kind of just seeing what people actually need and want and what we can provide to best encompass what everyone has said. Phase 2, let's make some noise, promotion of the campaign, making sure people know what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and how we are trying to help them and not work against them, since a lot of people feel very strongly about authority figures, and we want to make sure that we are with them, not against them, and giving them what they actually need, not what we think they need. Phase 3, skills up. Workshops, support and training, just really trying to get across our best efforts to make people feel as if they are now informed and they know how to deal with certain walks of life, whether that's from first aid to taxes, just trying to give people the information they need, the help they need to get and feel confident in who they are and what they can do with themselves.
It was really interesting when we spoke to the young people in one of our DYC meetings. Can you remember what sort of skills came out as things that young people wanted to learn more about?
A lot of people said about financial and economic knowledge, about going into the world, being expected to know these things, but not having been taught them in the right format. And a lot of it was about formatting or the time scale that they were taught them over. People felt like it was insufficient or it wasn't taught quite right and they didn't understand all the big words or what things related to other things. And first aid and basic training that can really help you make an effect on someone's life, whether that's spontaneously or whether you then go down the medical route. And it's just a lot about trying to feel confident in how to live your life as an adult, being taught that as a child so that you don't just have to jump into it and figure it all out.
And do you remember what came out from the conversation about exams? Because we've had several of our young people taking exams. It's that time for them, so it was very prevalent. So can you remember what they were sort of saying about the
How to
stresses?
revise.
Absolutely.
No, very few young people actually know how to revise. You get told you need to revise now. You need to revise like so much of our syllabus, but no one actually tells you how to revise or how to revise for you. You'll be given flashcards, you'll be given mind maps, and it doesn't work for everyone that way. And not everyone knows how to cater to themselves in order to get that revision they need, in order to feel confident in the knowledge that they already know. They just need to make it more stuck in their brains, but they don't know how to do that. And so that leads to a lot of panic and stress regarding the exams, which shouldn't be so stressful. It should just be you proving how much you really do know, because a lot of our young people are very bright individuals. They just don't know how to put that down on paper. They don't know how to learn that themselves. They're so used to being taught by someone else.
And also the other key thing that came up was about the pressure of mobile phones and friendships and that sort of the relationship side of things. So we've got our work cut out, I think, haven't we?
We've got a lot to do.
We've got a lot to do. But on to the next slide, please. We just want to say...
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And this is our email address. And if you think there's something that you can help us with, that would be lovely. I know some councillors have already reached out to us in terms of our members of Youth Parliament, and we will be sort of coming back to you about that. But yeah, I'm sure we've got an excellent skill set in the room that we can be working with, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Is it possible for you to send those slides to all the councillors? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Still on item 4. We recently had a volunteer week, and I was very impressed to visit Ferndown Community Support when they were presented with the King's Award for Voluntary Service by the Lord Lieutenant. The award recognises and reflects the dedication and commitment of 70 volunteers at the centre and the support and generosity of the community and local business. I especially like to thank Councillor Hannah Hobbs-Chell, the co-founder of this, and her commitment to the organisation. It would be great to see these kind of organisations all over in all our towns. I know there are some in other places, but it would be lovely if every town and every village had some system like this one. It was wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. Now we move to item 5, public participation. The first question is submitted by Councillor Leach.
Thank you. This question relates to the decision on the school crossing patrol in Church Road in Ferndown during the last financial year. Has Dorset Council undertaken a formal cost-benefit analysis before deciding to withdraw a post considered to be vital by so many in our community?
Response from Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services and Member for Sherborne East. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Leach. The cost of operating the school crossing patrol on Church Road, Ferndown, during the last financial year was £8,100. This decision is not about saving money. The new investment of over £300,000 supports a range of school safety measures, including improving crossings, junction changes to slow speeds, new connecting paths and parking restrictions. This will make the area more accessible and provide a safe crossing point at all times of the day.
Thank you. The next question is from Jeff Middleton. No, we don't have a question. No. So it's question 2 from Jeff Middleton.
Good evening. You'll be aware that the people are absolutely shocked and disappointed by the decision to remove the school crossing patrol in Christchurch Road, Ferndown. The argument that there is confusion caused by having a school crossing patrol on a zebra crossing does not sit comfortably with residents, and believe this is a financially driven rather than evidential-based decision. With hundreds of young people using the crossing access 3 schools in the road, will the Cabinet Member make this decision using executive powers, reverse his decision, or would he rather see a child seriously injured or possibly killed?
Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services, Sherborne East Member. Thank you very much for your question, Mr Middleton. For taking the time to raise this question and attending full council, I really value hearing views directly from members of the public on issues like this. The decision here is not about saving money. It is instead about investing money into a safe crossing point that's available at all times of the day and at all times of the year. The new crossing ensures that children and people of all ages will be able to cross safely. I, more than anybody with 2 grandchildren that go to a primary school, and cross a busy road without a zebra crossing or a school crossing patrol, do value young people's lives, but the professionals have told me and advised me that they can't have both, either one or the other.
Thank you. Question, Councillor, third question is from Caroline Stamp.
Hello. Is the council willing to change its policy on this particular zebra crossing to prevent unnecessary casualties or fatalities? That's the question.
Councillor Andrews.
Brett. Is the council willing to change its policy on this particular zebra crossing to prevent unnecessary casualties or fatalities?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Caroline, or Mrs Stamp. I'm John Andrews, the Cabinet Member of Police Services and Member for Sherborne East. Sorry, I have to keep repeating that. Thank you for raising the important points in your prelude, pre-app to the letter. This particular zebra crossing has been recently designed to current standards and has taken into account the road layout of the area as well as the traffic flows. Road safety professionals have assessed it as a safe and appropriate way to cross without a school crossing patrol.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions. Now we move it on to item 6, public participation and petitions. We have no petitions for debate tonight before the meeting, but I believe someone would like to hand in a petition.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Mike Parks, Ferndown North. Unfortunately, Leanne Gilchrist, who was going to present this, is unfortunately unable to be here, I suspect, because of the accident on the A31. So I do present this on her behalf. It relates to the crossing patrol that we've just heard about, and it's been signed by 1,148 residents of Ferndown, and we look forward to receiving a formal response in writing as per the Council's policy.
Thank you. In order for it to be debated in full council, it needs at least 5,000 signatures. Item 7, the report from the leader and cabinet members.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be fairly brief tonight. There was a cabinet update sent out earlier to all members, so I'm happy to answer any questions on my bit rather than repeat it here. However, there's one thing on that update which I do need to mention tonight. As you members will be now aware, Councillor Andrews next to me is stepping back from cabinet. We're really, really sorry to see him go, and I know he doesn't really want to do it, but he has to for personal reasons. He's lived and breathed the job for the last couple of years. I know Councillor Bryan before him was the same. It's a cabinet role that really takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a toll as well, I think it's fair to say. So we're sorry to see Jack go. I just announced the replacement. So John's going, and I'm pleased to announce that Councillor Jack Jeans is going to be replacing him from the 1st of September. And there will be a handover period from now until then. Jack, unfortunately, can't be here tonight. He was meant to be here and was also bringing Derek. But unfortunately, his family have got a vomiting bug, and he's taken a decision not to return. So Jack will be taking over, which I'm pleased to announce. And for those of you who don't know him, he's one of the 2 members for Shaftesbury. I'll just briefly touch on devolution. We received a letter from the Junior Minister today in response to a letter that was sent by Wessex a couple of weeks ago. I think it's probably fair to say it basically says we're still in the room, they're still talking to us, but makes no explicit promises about where we are on the devolution programme. We will be writing to the new Prime Minister once he's announced. From Monday, we suspect that the letter has been drafted. He's been saying some really good things about devolution, so it's another opportunity to basically remind them that we are here and we're ready to go. We are the only strategic authority footprint that has unitaries all the way through. And I'll just mention there was LGR announcements today from in the Chamber and House of Commons. Unsurprisingly, there weren't anything to do. Weren't any announcements to do with devolution. We weren't expecting any, and it's possibly disappointing that there weren't, but that's the way it is. Lots of other LGR announcements, though. And finally, I'll just finish. You may recall I mentioned a few months ago that the HomeWise campaign, which was produced by the Comms Department and our energy people, that's the one with the 30-second videos, with was it the solar squirrel and blanket bison and all those. So I mentioned it had been nominated for a Chartered Institute of Public Relations Award. It was shortlisted for that. The awards were on the 1st of July this month. And unfortunately, we didn't win. But the fact that we got recognised and shortlisted is great. The winners were the Climate Coalition flagship Great Big Green Week campaign, which had a very significantly larger budget than we did. But the fact that Dorset Council was recognised alongside people such as Tesco, the Welsh Government, and Specsavers, I'm not planning to make a joke there, is great. And the other good news is that the Energy Savings Trust, they were querying our numbers from the beginning because we were basically so off scale in terms of our ambition and what we thought we'd get. They were actually querying where the process was working. But what they're now doing is developing a case study on the campaign to help other councils learn from what we've done and basically enable residents throughout the country to get more home energy improvements. So it's great news. We're hopeful that we may get nominated for some other awards later in the year, but we will see. And that's it, Chair.
Very much. Any questions on what the leader has said? Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The leader seems to be going through cabinet members at quite an alarming rate. Would he be able to give me a heads up when it's my turn so I can book the week off work at this rate?
Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Both of my cabinet members have stepped back. Ryan Hope's was planned and John's not so planned, and he doesn't want to go, to be honest. Yeah, he has to. Unfortunately, you weren't on the short list for the job. So.
Any more questions for the leader? Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Andrew Parry, West Parley Ward. May I add my thanks to Councillor John Andrews for the work he's done in his time in the Place Directorate. We all recognise across the council that he has worked incredibly hard. When I reflect on my own time in the Cabinet, I noted that my hairline rapidly reduced and what was left went grey, but Councillor Andrews is as youthful looking today as he was the day he took office. I'm delighted that in appointing a successor, that the leader has finally taken the opportunity to find a councillor who serves in the North Dorset constituency. It has been notable for far too long that that area of Dorset has not had a place around the cabinet table. And I'm very pleased to see that is done, and I wish Councillor Jeans well in his appointment. But there is a big issue that cropped up in this chamber just moments ago, and that is the treatment of communities that have school crossing patrols. Would the leader, and I know this is very much the 11th hour, work with the outgoing cabinet member and his successor to reverse that decision and ensure that school crossing patrols remain in place going forward?
Thank you. I think we all agree with those comments about Councillor Andrews. Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I and my colleague, Councillor Kimber, would like to add our thanks to Councillor Andrews. I'm afraid I now know the answer to this because I did hear what Councillor Parry said, but I don't always hear everything that you say, Councillor Ireland, so I didn't know who you had appointed instead. So I hope that, I think he's a younger member. This is no disrespect whatsoever. I think he's a younger member, so may be able to cope with the really, really heavy task that particular brief is. And I wonder, as we go forward, you might like to consider returning to some idea of help for some of your cabinet members, because some of the cabinet member briefs are enormous. And from this side, we watch cabinet members really, really overtire themselves in a way that in the public sector they would never be expected to do.
Councillor Ireland.
I have no intention of bringing back paid lead members. I can leave it at that, but we are looking at other ways to support our cabinet.
Thank you. Councillor Lace. Yeah.
Just not announcing me, that's fine. Councillor Lacey Clark, member for Blandford Forum. I'm really sad to see Councillor Andrews need to step down. I think we've always had a great working relationship, and I think you've done a lot to support and help. I'm also pleased to see Councillor Jeans taking a step up. I think he'll do a great job. I am concerned that we might have another full-time working councillor that's also in a cabinet position when it's such a large role. And I do hope that when places had such a appeared reduction in service, that actually that doesn't continue to be the case and that we do remain member-led. And I do have worries about that. But I would like to make a plea to the leader. As Councillor Jeans will be presumably leaving scrutiny, can I have Neil Eisen back, please? because he was doing a fantastic job when I don't know why he was removed from it. It'd be really good to have him back again. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Bryan.
Yes, Councillor Ray Bryant, representing St Leonard's and Tenaive Ward. It would be very remiss of me if I didn't say to John what a great job he's done. It's probably the most work-intensive portfolio of all of them. I know that to my cost. I'm really only 41, and look at me now. I had the portfolio for 5 years, and John, I hope things are all right for you. I hope that you'll still take a tremendous interest in the portfolio, because it is a massive portfolio for any single person to deal with. I'm not sure what you did to Nick that made him give you that one, but at least he took climate change away from you, but then gave you waste. But quite seriously, you need to be congratulated on the work you've done, and personally, I thank you for the work you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Anyone? Yeah. Yes, Kath.
Thank you, Chair. Belinda Borden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth. As I seem to be the only Green in the room tonight, apart from my colleague in the Cabinet, I'd also like to add our thanks to John. In particular, my personal thanks, because things have really started to happen in Lyme Regis and Charmouth, thanks to his diligence and engagement and kindness. And thank you. And I'm sorry you're going, but thank you for everything you've done for us all.
Thank you. Any more comments from anyone? Well, thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 8, the Capital Programme Review, which Councillor Clifford will introduce.
Councillor Simon Clifford, Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources. Just before I start, can I just personally thank John? I've known him for so long, I don't call him John. He's John to me and always has been. But also thank everyone for the kind words. This has been a really difficult decision for John. Very emotional for him. He's doing the right thing for himself and his family, but it's very pleasing to hear that everyone can come together and recognise dedication and hard work. So my personal thanks to you, John. So I am pleased to bring this paper to Council, having asked for a thorough review of the way the Council operated its capital programme in the past. I felt the programme had become more of an unfunded wish list rather than an expression of need. So my thanks to the finance team, who've worked extremely hard over a tight timescale to bring this new approach and this report to Council. It's been through Cabinet and there were no comments on it, so I'll keep my introduction fairly brief. This is a new approach to gauge spend and borrowing need. It's not relegating or promoting schemes, it's just reordering proposals so that those are fully formed with a funding requirement that's clear, become more obvious. Those that are further back and yet to provide a full business case continue on their progress, and as they gain approvals, funding decisions will follow. The paper demonstrates a three-pronged approach. First, standing items such as highways, school improvements, so essential items. The second is approved schemes, fully developed projects where we know timelines, delivery and funding requirements. And the third is a pipeline of emerging ideas that can be developed and worked up before spending is committed. To smooth the approach, the paper highlights a significant contingency of £10 million, up from £2 million, which will enable faster and proportionate decision-making as required. This all comes with stronger governance, something I know all councillors are keen to see. So on that note, I'm happy to move the 5 recommendations. You may note that Appendix D isn't part of the recommendations. That's because at Cabinet it was dealt as information only, so no decision required. But I'm happy to move that.
Councillor Northam to second.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second this motion and speak at the end of the debate, please.
Anyone like to speak on the motion? No. Councillor Northern.
Yeah, that was very quick. Thank you. I support this review and the reorganisation of the approval framework for capital project. It provides what I found an easier to understand grouping of the various different categories, the multi-year standing items, the approved capital schemes, and the less mature capital pipeline. And as Councillor Clifford has already mentioned, the contingency budget can enable fast tracking of smaller emerging schemes. I recommend this to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to the vote on the recommendations.
The vote is now open. Councillor Quayle, could you vote again for me, please?
67.
67. Councillor Vitali, could you press again? Thank you. And that's it. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And the results of the vote are 62 in favour, 6 against, 2 abstentions. The motions are therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to item 9, the Joint Local Transport Plan, which will be introduced by Councillor Andrews.
I think it's going to be a busy night. Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services and Ward Member for Sherborne East. I'm pleased to present the Joint Local Transport Plan 26 to 41 for adoption. This is a significant piece of work that's been developed over the last 3 years with colleagues at BCP Council. I think it's worth recognising the value of that partnership. People travel across our boundaries every day for work, education, healthcare and leisure, and many of the transport challenges we face are shared. By working together, we produce a stronger plan and put ourselves in a much better position to secure future investment from government. That funding point is particularly important. Transport funding is becoming increasingly focused on authorities having a clear long-term strategies and delivery plans. If we want Dorset to continue attracting investment for roads, buses, active travel, maintenance and wider transport improvements, we need an up-to-date local transport plan. This document provides that strategic framework over the next 15 years. The plan strongly supports all of our 4 council priorities. It helps us grow our economy through better connectivity to access jobs. It supports the delivery of homes and communities by ensuring growth is supported by the right infrastructure. It helps create stronger and healthier communities through improved access and travel choice. And it supports our commitment to responding to the climate and nature emergency through a more sustainable and resilient transport network. Most importantly, this plan has been shaped by evidence, by engagement with residents, businesses and stakeholders, and by listening to what people have told us, which matters most, such as buses, road maintenance, safety and accessibility. This is a practical and deliverable plan. This is not a promise to deliver every scheme tomorrow. It's a long-term strategy that gives Dorset clear direction and the best possible platform to secure future investment. I'm therefore pleased to commend the Local Transport Plan 2026-2041 to Council and ask members to support its adoption. The recommendations are laid out in 1, 2 and 3 on page 41. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Clifford to second.
Very happy to support this, Chair, and I'll reserve my comments to the end.
Comments from anyone? Councillor Baptiste.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Having worked on this in a previous life and also working with you on it, John, I know how difficult it is to come up with something that will please everybody. What does concern me is that in my own area, in the Eastern Ward, we suffer with a lack of public transport. We have an elderly population. and we need to get those people to the doctors, and we need to get them to the hospitals. I do hope that we won't get overshadowed by BCP, which is the norm, and we need to stand firm and get what we need for our own wards. This makes me even more disappointed that you're going, John, because I know that in conversations with you, we could have looked at ways of improving it, and I do hope that this will continue. It's a very serious issue. We've just gone through a by-election, and I can tell you now, the candidates, all the candidates put forward the bus as a major cause of concern. I can't express just how difficult it is. I don't want to see the money wasted. I don't want to see it spent on new signs and everything else. Let's get some buses on the road that we can use for those people. I take this document as being high level, and I look forward to being able to have some input into the lower levels down, because I think it's very important that this is dealt with in an orderly fashion, with the right people talking to each other, because we do need, for the whole of Dorset, to get rural transport for our residents going forward. And unfortunately, John, time isn't on our side, because the older the population get, the worse it gets. So I really am asking both you, your replacement, and the officers that we work closely together to come up with some solutions. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Legg.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sorry, I've got to contend with a fan here, which is a bit of a nuisance. John, I'd like to ask you about the third recommendation, which talks specifically about amendments which might take place.
Councillor Legg, maybe if you sat down, it would be easy to speak and listen to you.
A response from the fan. Anyway, okay. The third recommendation talks specifically about the ability to make changes to the plan where they need to take account of changes of national policy, local priorities or funding. The leader has already intimated his expectation that something might be afoot with the new Prime Minister who takes office, I think, on Monday. He built his reputation on doing great works with public transport in Manchester. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if he doesn't do something with public transport now as a change of direction. And I just wonder how we might respond to that based on the fact that we've now got a plan, we want to submit it, and how are we going to respond in a timely way if we suddenly find the sort of the ground structure beneath our feet is actually changing?
Thank you. We're now at Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much. Councillor Simon Gibson, representing Furwood. I will be supporting the local transport plan tonight. I supported it at overview because I think it's broadly a good document. And before I get into the details, I want to thank John for the way that you've taken this through the overview committee multiple times. I've always held this up as an example of not just going to overview once, ticking the box and then sending the rest of it through to Cabinet. I think we saw it either 2 or 3 times. And I genuinely think it's a better document for going through the system the way that you've done it. So thank you as an overview member. When it was going through the process, it started off at very high level, talking about the principles that should underpin the local transport plan. They were agreeable. I think all 4 of them make sense. I think the plan has got better as it's gone through the process. However, during the early stages of the debate, when we wanted to advocate for our own area, we were told that it was a high-level plan and that we needed to wait for the implementation plan to follow to see where early on in the schemes the money would go towards. At the last overview, we did get to see that list, which was great. And there's I think it's over 100 interventions that will be made in the first 5 years of the 15-year plan. If you represent an area like mine, there's no schemes at all in it. So it's hard to be excited about the specifics of the local transport plan if you're a Verwood resident. Despite that, because of the assurances you've given during the process, I am going to support it still, because I recognise that the implementation plan is for the first 5 years of a 15-year plan. However, the assurances that I would like from you, if possible, before we vote, is will the administration spend the first 5 years not just implementing the plans in the implementation plan that are listed, but actually actively work in areas like mine where there are no shovel-ready projects, so that when we get to the next 5 years of this plan, there's an implementation plan that has projects that reflect the whole of Dorset Council. Because if we were to sit here in 5 years' time and we would look at the next phase of it, and my area was to miss out again, I would be sitting wondering when I had the opportunity to put my 2 pence worth in about what an area like Verwood needs. So for me, it's a good plan and I'm happy to support it, but please give me the assurances that the areas that have missed out this time will be high up the priority list next time.
Thank you. Councillor Monks.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward, and a Shadow Cabinet member for about 28 minutes from my email to you, John, and then your press release. So I've left the kind words from my predecessor and my leader. It's just a very quick question and a fairly open one, really. Obviously, the report is tied in with or is in collaboration with BCP, and I must confess, I'm not sure if this has gone through BCP just yet next week. So it's a good question then. I don't look like an idiot. Should BCP not support the plan their end? Is there resilience within our plan here so it stands up as a standalone document? Because it obviously may well affect. Thank you.
Do you want to give the answer now?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. It is a concern, but it did go through their overview committee last night, passed. So we're hopeful that it's going to go through. Because if it doesn't go through, then we'll have to go to the DFT and say, look, we did our bit. They haven't done theirs. That won't look good on them, I have to say, if they haven't got a plan and if we submit something along our lines. No, I'm sure our chief executive will be scurrying off somewhere to go and phone somebody and say they turned it down, which I hope sincerely they don't.
Thank you. Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Chair, fellow councillors. Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. We welcome this and happy to support. And not only do we have to really consider our buses and our residents who are in many isolated areas. I know over the past month, we've been getting a petition up on Portland, and what has happened in my area is probably a mirror image of what's happening in many areas, that we build a new estate, new houses, and then suddenly you've got a group that's completely isolated from transport. So we really do have to say to you, we need to push and push and push for buses. And I'm also going to make the plea not only for buses, for our cycleways as well. And I think you would expect me to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Christopher.
Thank you. I will talk about buses, but firstly, I would like to thank Councillor Andrews for all the good work that he's done on the road that he travels every day between Sherborne and Dorchester, and particularly on the top road. Unfortunately, the roads around the Marshwood Vale are not in such a good condition, and I'm working with the Director of Place to improve that. Turning to buses, I would like to encourage your successor to engage with the Western Area Transport Action Group, which meets in Bridport Town Council property, and I hope you'll be able to attend every meeting as John's successor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Took. I nearly said David then, but...
Thank you. Councillor David Took from Old Holton Cranbourne Ward. I just want to say thank you to John for this transport plan. What pleases me about it is that it also includes Hampshire, because coming from the eastern front, as it were, a lot of our roads, a lot of our transport areas are covered by Hampshire. So it's not just BCP that affects us on our southern edge, but on the eastern edge, we're very much dependent on Hampshire. So I'm very pleased to see that Hampshire is included in this plan. Thank you, John.
Anyone else? Yes.
Councillor Belinda Borden, I'm Regis in Charmouth. I can't really let all the other people who've mentioned their patch without mentioning West Dorset and rural North, and particularly working with Devon County Council, or Devon Council as it will be, because it's not part of the immediate, Wessex grouping. I've been doing a lot of work recently trying to persuade the contractors of the roadworks that are closing the A35 at night to try and put their roadworks back by half an hour so that the new community night bus, the LB1, running on Friday evenings and Saturday evenings between Bridport and Lyme, stopping at the villages in between and also going back to Weymouth, which means that young people in Weymouth are able to enjoy a night service. So I've been asking them if they can possibly delay the road closures so that the bus can make 2 early evening circuits, because otherwise we risk losing that grant funding without being able to prove the success of the service. So the linking in the transport plan of community buses into the core network is a really, really good move, as is connectivity to the railway stations. So for us, we rely on the railway station, which isn't in Dorset, so it doesn't always get a mention. So in West Dorset, we use Crewkerne and Axminster. So connecting the railway services up to the buses is vital. I also cycleways. A lot of the investment is not over in the hillier parts of the county. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't like them. And I definitely support Councillor Gibson's plea that those of us that would like to have more implementation plans in the process, that we can be part of the discussions over the next few years. And thank you for a lovely, ambitious plan. Let's hope it all comes to fruition and more.
Thank you. Any more comments? Councillor Clifford, would you like to come back?
Thank you, Chair. Some really good points there. So yes, we're looking across the whole of the county, and this is for the whole of the county. Connectivity is a really important issue, and we'll be addressing there's specific funding for that kind of thing. The Hampshire connection, yes, we do have to look beyond our borders because things don't start and finish always in Dorset. Councillor Kimber mentioned a push for smaller communities. I think that's really important that we look to do that. Councillor Monk's, several councillors mentioned the BCP issue, and I think it is going to be a challenge, and I think we have to be really robust in our work with BCP to make sure that Dorset comes first. And I think there's really good points that are being made there, and we will take it on. Councillor Gibson was talking about schemes that aren't in here, and I very much welcome that. We do have plans that will come forward over the next 12 months about improving the bus network, connecting our market towns better and looking to community transport much more. It's all going to be joined up and things will come here and people get the chance to see it, but you're absolutely right to raise that. And Councillor Bryan started us off with something that's very close to my heart, which is elderly people accessing medical facilities. I represent Chickerell, where if you go to the doctors and then need to go to the pharmacy, that is a 4-hour bus journey. That's how long you have to wait. So there's a lot of work to go on there. So I just want to finish off by pointing out the financials and why it's so important. £158 million revenue and capital, £33 million to support Dorset's highways, buses and active transport and transport priorities. It's really important. Will BCP turn down any money and any funding the current state they're in? I very much doubt it. So I think that's probably going to work in our favour. So I heartily recommend this, and I'm happy to support.
Yeah, I think the proposer just wants to say anything.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say this is, as Councillor Bryan has already mentioned, this piece of work has taken 3 years. There are some officers in this building and also in BCP that have worked their butts off putting this together, and they've done a really good job. As we said, we've been overview a couple of times, or 3 times, and we brought it through cabinet. Now the full council. So I really like to thank those officers. They know who they are. Shall I give them a shout out? Well, I certainly will with one anyway. Owen Clark and his team have just done a fantastic job. All right, so I really like to thank them, and I couldn't let this go without thanking them.
Thank you.
Sorry, led by Jack Wiltshire, of course.
Thank you. We will now go to the vote on the transport plan.
Okay. The vote is now open. Councillor Lugg, could you press your button again? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And the results of the vote are 69 in favour, 1 abstention. The recommendations are therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think it was nice for Councillor Andrews for us to vote for that. Now, item 10, motion on notice. Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So tonight I bring this motion to Council. Our beloved Ginger Tabby Pumpkin was killed earlier this year by a motorist. Sorry, I should have introduced Councillor Ryan Holloway, ward member for Wareham, jumping ahead. Our beloved Ginger Tabby Pumpkin was killed earlier this year by a motorist in the early hours who failed to stop and drove off. It was only another passing motorist who found him in the road and took him to the emergency vets, where he was found to have suffered a head trauma. My wife and I were unaware that this had happened until mid-morning when the vet had contacted us, and we were both devastated that this had happened, knowing that someone had just left him for dead. Unfortunately, this has happened to many cat owners across the country and leaves many owners devastated. Currently, Section 170 of the Road Traffic Act 1988 only applies to dogs, horses, cattle, pigs, sheep and goats, but not cats. Since June 2024, all cats in England over 20 weeks old must legally be microchipped, as it is the same for dogs. Recently, the government introduced the new Animal Welfare Act 2025 to crack down on pet smuggling, which of course I fully support. But I find it incredible that the government is not even considering updating the Road Traffic Act, and yet despite multiple petitions and charities saying that this must change, currently the government says, and I quote, difficult to enforce. I find that response incredibly hollow. As the animal-loving nation we are, I think it is time that the law should be updated to protect cats and to give cat owners reassurance that motorists should legally stop if they collide with a cat. So I ask members across the chamber to please support the following motion to put pressure on the government to change the law by writing to the Secretary of State for Transport. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think this is seconded by Councillor Sarway House.
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to support this motion and speak after any debate.
Councillor Legg.
I'll see if I can get it right this time. Robin Legg, Councillor for Sherborne Rural. I won't declare myself a cat owner. I always think that cats own us rather than the other way around. My wife and I have got 4 cats. Just before we moved to the village of Bradford Abbas 2 years ago, we lost a cat on the road. I'll call him Little DV. That was my wife's choice of name. She's a bit of a fan of Darth Vader, as it happens. So it was Little Darth Vader he got christened as. And he was a beautiful black cat. We were out one evening, we'd gone to an outdoor play in the summer in Sherborne. And when we got back, he wasn't around, the other cat was. And we saw on social media that a cat fitting our cat's description had actually been run over on Marston Road. Fortunately, somebody kindly stopped and took him to the local vet's practice, which is not too far away. And we spent an anxious night waiting to see whether or not it was somebody else's cat rather than ours. I think we need to get home to people that a dead cat on the road isn't just a bit of roadkill. It's a personality. Little DV had a great personality, and his loss was traumatic. I remember we waited for ages until the vet's practice opened the next morning. We were sitting on the doorstep waiting to go in. So I hope all of us, decide to press ahead with this motion, and I hope our members of Parliament in Dorset decide to take up the cause as well. There are an awful lot of people who own, or perhaps that's the wrong word, a lot of people who have felines in their lives, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. So let's do something positive this evening.
Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Nocturne, Lacey-Clark, Blandford Forum Ward. It may just be that it's really hot in here, but it feels like everyone's filibustering tonight. Well, rather than like enthusiastically agreeing with each other, if no one's speaking against it, can we just go to the vote and support it? It's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Councillor O'Leary. Oh, thank you. Councillor Lugg.
Yeah. Whilst I have every sympathy with anyone whose beloved cat is killed on our roads, this is not a matter over which this council has any jurisdiction. Earlier, a petition was handed in with over 1,000 signatures from members of the public on a road safety issue involving children, which is a Dorset Council responsibility. It didn't meet the threshold for debate by council, and the chair refused to use her discretion to allow it. Yet here we are discussing a motion about the death of cats on roads. It has the required number of fellow councillors. How does this look to members of the public? Does this administration really want our residents to feel that pets dying on the roads is more worthy of discussion than children potentially dying in the same manner? Central government will think we've got nothing better to do. Therefore, I won't be supporting the motion.
Any more comments from anyone? Councillor Kimber.
Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. Chair, if we are the coalface of our communities. If we can't bring concerns from our communities here, I think it could be a sad day to say that this notice of motion shouldn't be allowed because it's not within our remit. I really can't agree with that point. I think we've got a duty to represent all our communities, even if it's our local cats. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Right, we'll go straight to the vote then.
Right, I've got to give it support. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. The vote is now open. Councillor Williams, could you press your button? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And the results of the vote are 46 in favour, 10 against, 13 abstentions. The notice of motion is therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, item 11 is a motion from Councillor Vitale.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I understand that I've got permission to speak on this, even if it's not going to debate, so I'm grateful to her for that, and maybe I can explain why we're not debating this motion. There's a select few things that unite everyone in this country. I can think of a few: the armed forces, the English football team, and there's another that I'll submit, and that is the ideal of home ownership. It's probably the most widely held aspiration ideal in our society, and it's a quintessentially British one. As the saying goes, an Englishman's home is his castle, and it provides roots in a community, it provides stability, it provides security, and maybe most importantly, it provides independence too. But there's a unsettling and quite corrosive development taking place in our country at the moment that's undermining that ideal of home ownership. So I want to just paint you a brief picture based on conversations I've had with residents, and particularly those on the Blackmore Meadows estate in Stallbridge. So imagine that you're a two-person household, you've got children, you've done everything right, you've worked really hard in life, maybe both of you work, you've saved, you've thrifted, and you've put together enough money for a deposit, and you've taken out a mortgage, and you bought your first home. It's a real milestone moment, and you become a freeholder on a brand new housing estate in Dorset. Except you're not quite a freeholder. Quite quickly you discover that you're subject to charges which you can't control, which you can't really influence, and frankly you don't understand, just comes through the letterbox. These charges probably come from a private estate management company, and many of you will have heard of this practice before. It's known as fleasehold. It's not just happening in Stallbridge and in my wards. It's happening across Dorset. And at this point, I would just like to say a great thank you to Councillors Legg and Crabb. We've had a very prolonged conversation about this, and their advice and input has been really useful in crafting this motion. But it's not just them. I'm delighted for the support I've got across the Conservative group too, and I'm hoping that the majority of members in this council will have had similar experiences with similar situations in their wards and will feel able to support this motion. It's not just happening in Dorset either. This is a national problem. 80% of new homes built on estates produced by the 11 big house builders are managed by a private estate agent. 1.75 million homes in the UK are on estates that are managed by a private estate management agency. It's not so much the charges themselves. Everyone knows that community areas need upkeep. It's the sense that you don't have control over it. It's the sense that as a freeholder on an estate, you can't control what price you're paying each year, from year to year, how much it's going to go up by, that I think sticks in the teeth of people who feel like they've become freeholders. So you probably know that the government's consulting on this issue, and the Law Commission is doing a deep dive into it. There was a leasehold reform in the last government. This government has introduced leasehold legislation. And as part of the Law Commission's work, they're looking at specifically private estate management companies. But it's a slow process. It's going to take years. And as you'll know, with the local plan in mind, there are new estates being built in this county right now, and there's people moving on to those estates right now who might be subject to charges from a private management agency. So that's why the policy that I have crafted is before you this evening. I'm not trying to rectify the whole issue. We can't do that at Dorset Council, but there's lots we can do. So let me just quickly describe the policy in as few words as possible. The first thing is the policy sets out a preference that on new estates, the common areas are adopted by the council, either Dorset Council or the local parish or town council. I understand this is something that officers are already discussing. But there are lots of instances where that's not going to be possible, either because of financial reasons for Dorset Council or the specificities of a given estate. So the second policy is a requirement that developers must set out in their planning documents, particularly the Section 106 agreements, a plan for how residents will have representation on financial decisions related to their estate. And the hope is that this will be done through residents' associations. These will become material considerations in planning policy. As I said, this isn't going to solve the problem finally. We need national government to do that. But it will give greater protection to freeholders in our county, hopefully when it is enacted. I'll just finish on a couple of things. The reason why this isn't being debated this evening is I took advice from Mr. Mayor and officers. Because this is a matter considered by the EAP, it's proper that it's referred to them first. What I would say is that, and hopefully it'll be reflected in the vote, this is an issue that all of us have a stake in. And I've been struck by how non-partisan and cross-party the issue is. So what I'm hoping is that the relevant cabinet member will come and present or report back to this council on this policy specifically, potentially in 6 months, which seems like a fair time frame. Often there's lots of reasons not to do something. There's legal advice, it's going to be difficult. Maybe we need to let someone else take the lead, national government perhaps. On this point, I really think there's something we can do which would be really welcomed by our residents. I've done my research. There's councils already doing this. Part of the inspiration for this policy was the one introduced by Taunton Town Council recently. We can do something on this matter. We really should. And I hope councillors will support the motion and that it will be considered at the EAP. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary, you're going to second?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very happy to second. I'll be briefer than my colleagues. I think he's covered most of the points. But a powerful mayor from a northern town is about to become Prime Minister, and I don't mean Councillor Fry. And he was talking the other day about power without accountability. And I think some of this happened in the last 60 years. A great deal of power has been transferred from locally elected councillors and other individuals to faceless bodies, housing associations, quangos, etc. And I think private developers who keep hold of estates long after development is complete is one of those. I think nothing probably unites all members in this chamber than a matter that affects a local resident that is out of the power of us as local councillors, because it is something that's incredibly frustrating. We're seen as powerless, we feel powerless, and residents are frustrated. So I think this is a good step forward, and there's a major issue we have to push. I have estates in my ward that are 10 years complete now, and there's been no transfer over. And if you want anything done, you have to go through the rigmarole of contacting some company in a far-off area to try and even get something like a verge or hedge cut. Some similarities to the council. So therefore, I commend this motion to you all this evening.
As has been said, we will not have any discussion on this motion now. It will go back to the Local Plan Executive Advisory Panel and then be reported back. Thank you very much for your motion. And now I think it would be a good time to have a short break, get some fresh air. If you'd like to come back at if you'd like a break, can you put your hands up? No?
I think voting. They're asking if you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, there is no vote on this because it's just automatically goes to EAP. So there's no vote on that. What I'm asking for now, if people would like a 5-minute, 10-minute break, would you like to show your hands? All right. Okay. Can we leave? And we'll come back at 1:45. Thank you very much. councillors. You put the questioners can only have 2 minutes for each question. So we start with question 1 submitted by Councillor Sowie House.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At a recent meeting of Meet Your Councillors surgery, a resident drew my attention to a social media post discussing Dorset Council's reported year-end underspend. The post claimed that the underspend was achieved primarily through the use of reserves and by postponing or reducing services, particularly within the Place Directorate. As elected members will know, residents are increasingly exposed to commentary and assertions on social media, often presented with varying degrees of evidence and context. Many residents understandably find it difficult to distinguish between opinion, interpretation, and established fact. Could the Cabinet member therefore clarify how the reported year-end underspend was actually achieved, what role, if any, the use of reserves played in achieving the final outturn position, and whether any material underspends arose from the reduction or delay of frontline services such as pothole repairs, for example, within the Place Directorate, and what assurance can be given to residents that Council's financial reporting provides a complete and transparent picture of its performance. Finally, in an age where so much local political discussion takes place on social media, does the Cabinet member agree that residents should reasonably expect claims concerning the Council's finances to be supported by original source information and verifiable evidence, rather than being asked to rely solely upon opinion, occupying what might be described as the wasteland between knowledge and ignorance? I would be grateful for any clarification that can help residents better understand the facts behind the Council's published financial position.
There will be a response by Councillor Clifford.
Thank you for that question. The short answer towards the end of your question there is yes, it is important that the public receive accurate information about how their council tax is spent. I've not seen the social media post you refer to, but it certainly sounds misleading at best. So I think it's important to rebut inaccuracies, and I will do that point by point. There are a number of similar questions for the rest of this evening, so I will apologize, there may well be some inevitable overlap. First, we publish our end-of-year financial results and take them through Cabinet and scrutiny committees such as the recent Audit and Governance Committee. That report shows very clearly that we did not use reserves to deliver the very small underspend of £169,000. In fact, the complete opposite. We have increased reserves at the same time as delivering the first underspend in the history of Dorset Council, something the whole Council has contributed to and should be pleased with. This strengthens our ongoing financial position. The second inaccuracy highlighted in your question is we did not achieve this underspend through cutting frontline services. You ask how we did achieve this milestone, and the answer is through tight financial controls led by our new Chief Executive, who has installed those financial controls through the whole authority. Careful budget monitoring, delivering savings, and delivering efficiencies. Previous holders of this Finance Cabinet post will recognise the frustration that comes from spending all year worrying about forecasts of overspending, only to find significant movements materialising late in the year. And that is what happened this time, with a £4.6 million improvement from Q3 to Q4. This certainly helped, and I'd like to thank my Cabinet colleagues and senior leaders in the Council for that tight financial grip. You mentioned the Directorate responsible for some key frontline services such as highways and waste, and I'm grateful to the Cabinet member and Director for Place for delivering significant efficiencies in areas such as school transport, lower energy bills for street lighting, and higher income than anticipated, as well as that careful budget management. That series of efficiencies helped deliver additional spending on drainage, flooding issues, and emergency resurfacing roads following storm damage. Had the teams not delivered better than expected energy bill savings, we would have overspent on our road and highways. To suggest we cut back in this area is clearly nonsense. I've been very clear publicly that Dorset Council remains underfunded by government, and although the underspend is welcome, we are under huge financial continuing pressure. Challenges remain, and a tight grip on finances across all directorates is essential. Finally, your point about social media accuracy is well made. It's completely fair to hold the administration and this council to account for decisions we make. I would hope that where social media posts are pushed by political parties, they would be based on facts rather than just pure politics. Facts matter, and residents deserve evidence, not just speculation and opinion. That's why councils have an obligation to be transparent and to publish reports that are there for everyone to read and judge for themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Sowerhouse, do you want to supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can, just to dig down on the answer you've given the importance of sound financial management, could you advise the Council whether there were any cumulative budget overspends during the previous administration's tenure? And if so, what was the total value? And are you in a position to explain how those overspends were funded and what impact, if any, this had on the Council's reserves, financial resilience and ability to meet future spending commitments?
Yeah, it was all going so well. The previous administration made its own decisions based on the finances at the time. The combined overspend for the majority of their time would have come to round about £25 million. Any overspend is funded from the general fund, which is from reserves. I can't comment on the reasons for it. There will be many and various, not least the fact that they were setting up a unitary council right at the beginning. But I think further detail, if required, will have to come in a written response.
Thank you. We'll now move on to question 2, submitted by Councillor Flower.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Councillor Flower, Verwood Ward. Sustainability of place services following top slicing of the 26-27 budget. Ward members in the eastern area of Dorset Council are increasingly receiving complaints about how frontline services have deteriorated since May 2024. The very outdated approach of top slicing, which seems to be adopted by the administration, will only make matters worse. Can the Cabinet Member for Place explain how it will be possible to sustain vital frontline services to our communities to an acceptable standard following a significant reduction in annual Place Directorate funding?
Councillor Clifford.
Thank you to Councillor Flower for the question. There's some overlap with the previous question, as I highlighted there would be, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. There are a couple of accidentally misleading comments contained within the question. I'm sure all members are aware that frontline services do not get more personal than our social care staff, our housing teams, benefits and other services, and I know all in this chamber would thank our staff for carrying out their hugely important roles. These are frontline roles. I'm delighted that these staff get the recognition they deserve and pay tribute to our children's services, rated as outstanding, our top-rated SEND team, and our adult social care, recently rated as good. It's what we're here for, and these achievements are to be celebrated. Councillor Flower refers to a significant reduction in the Place Directorate funding. This is not the case. The budget approved by Council in February differs by just 0.5% on the previous year. And we are able to do this because the Directorate has proven to be efficient and effective and have a tight financial grip. As mentioned in the previous response, it's delivered significant efficiencies in school transport, reduced energy bills for street lighting and so on. Although not specific, I suspect Councillor Flower was referring to roads and bin collections when talking about residents' complaints. On roads, including the local top-up of £8 million agreed at last month's Cabinet meeting, adding in the Department for Transport's 4-year allocation and including our own spending plans, plus the extra £5 million I announced for flood resilience on our roads, that comes to a total of £162 million to be spent on Dorset's highways over the coming 4 years. Certainly the biggest ever spend on general highways maintenance and flood resilience, a record amount and no cuts to frontline services. On bins, I can give the latest performance figures between April 25 and March 26. Dorset Council completed just under 23 million domestic collections, with 19 million reported missed collections. This equates to a successful collection rate of 92.92%. That's only 0.08% of collections reported as missed. That is some achievement. The number of reported missed collections has remained broadly steady. However, the number of service disruptions, this is where collections don't take place on the day and may take up to 5 days to continue, has increased slightly. This may be what Councillor Flower is hearing on a doorstep, and I hope this gives him the facts he needs to deal with future comments. As the Council knows well, as it started on his watch, the Council remains one of the highest performing unitary councils when it comes to recycling. My thanks to him and his own party for getting us to that important mark.
Councillor Flower, do you want a supplementary?
Yes, please, Madam Chairman. Just pick up on a couple of points, because the experience we've had in Burwood in the last few months is a repeated occasion of vehicle breakdowns, and for one reason or another, which has disrupted the service quite significantly. And even yesterday, we've had, the pair of us, or three of us, have had a notification of missed collections. We've got a very high standard of our collection, and we should all be very proud of that. But we're not very happy when we fail. None of us should be happy with the service that isn't up to our acceptable standard. And the other thing is the issue about cut and collect grass, which I'm very supportive of, the cut and collect system of grass verge cutting. Last year we had 3 cuts. It worked very well, actually. I asked for 3, we got 3. This year we're going to get 2 like everybody else. I can't tell you the number of phone calls and concerns we've had in the town about how scruffy the town looks. I'm not proud of that, and none of us in this chamber.
Can I ask you, what is your supplementary question?
We sprayed. They weren't sprayed. Oh, they did. We waited till they grew and all the seeds come out, and then we sprayed them, and they're all dying now. But when we left with, but my main concern is I've reported a number of fairly minor highway works, and the response I've got, we don't have any budget to carry out these works. So I hope you'll agree with me, and I put John here because I thought John was going to answer this question because it's to do with place. I hope you'll agree with me. This simply is not good enough, and I don't want, as a local member, I wasn't elected to cut services. And as a local member, I don't want any of us in this chamber to be faced with being told by officers they haven't got any money to do some fairly simple things to make life better for those people we serve. Thank you, Jim.
Clifford? Councillor Andrews. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry to hear that answer, Councillor Flower. If you let me know the details, I will look into it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to question 3, submitted by Councillor Brenton.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Brenton, Litchett and Upton. I apologise if this may seem a bit repetitive, but I have had, I know that many residents welcomed the report from Dorset Council's independent, non-political finance director, confirming that the Lib Dem administration had delivered the first underspend, although small, in the history of Dorset Council. Therefore, it's rather disappointing that some Conservatives appear unhappy with this result, particularly given that under their administration, the council budget overspent. The Conservatives, or some, have publicly claimed that spending at Dorset Council is out of control and that services are being disrupted in order to balance the books, and the council is running a deficit of millions of pounds. Can the Cabinet Member for Finance confirm these claims are false and reassure the opposition and the residents that Dorset Council's budget remains in safe hands under the leadership of the Finance Director?
Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I've answered large elements of that in my previous responses, but will reinforce a couple of areas. It's disappointing, no matter where they come from, that claims are made that spending at Dorset Council is out of control. It's clearly not. I don't know where the evidence of this comes from, but it's clearly highly inaccurate and misleading to our council tax and business rate players, and it's just wrong. The easiest way to point to this, if spending is out of control, how do we deliver a balanced budget and an underspend? It just doesn't stack up to any scrutiny. The same for the claim that we are running a huge budget deficit. So let's be clear. Claims that services are being disrupted to deliver an underspend are false. Claims that spending is out of control are false. Claims that the council is running a budget deficit are false. I've given examples of the high quality services we deliver and examples of the record investments we are making. Together with the improved end of financial Q4 figures, this is the reason the Section 151 officer, our top finance officer at this council, was able to lower his financial risk rating for the council and has given a cautiously optimistic view of the future. He would, though, absolutely tell me off if I didn't add that financial sustainability is fragile. Local government is awaiting the new Prime Minister's input with funding funding decisions with some interest, perhaps even some hope. These are choppy waters, and I'm delighted that last financial year we steered a successful course through them. The challenges, though, remain for us all for the future. The Dorset Council is underfunded by government and penalising our residents. I hope that answers the question, and in your part and also with the two previous questions, that gives you a whole response there.
Councillor Benton, Councillor Benton, a supplementary. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Someone's mic's on. Under Constitution point 13.2, valid member questions, it said that questions must be 2 members unless at chairman's discretion. There are 2 questions contained within one question, separate from each other. I don't think the member was actually meant to write a supplementary probably in the actual document. It was probably meant as a zinger afterwards that she accidentally put in, I suspect. Therefore, can I have it confirmed, as this is different from the main question, is this a separate question? Because I don't see what has to do with the original question, frankly. It just seems to be the scripted question to Frank.
Yes, you have a very good point. Some questions now are being made into 3 or 4 questions in one point. And I think when people put questions in, they must remember a question is just one question. Thank you. So, Councillor Benton.
I assume this is a supplementary question, but you can overrule me. It's been claimed that council officers, specifically the communication teams, are acting politically. Can the Cabinet member comment on this?
Councillor Clifford.
I don't like officers being criticised. I think it's unfortunate and would urge all councillors to remember that our staff work hard on all our behalfs and remain non-political. They cannot answer back, and I believe it's unfair to criticise them in public without, at the very least, first discussing any perceived bias or concerns with the relevant senior officers.
Thank you. We now move on to question 4, submitted by Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Michael Parks, Ferndown North. In a previous question to full council regarding the withdrawal of the school crossing patrol on Church Road in Ferndown, we were advised that motorists get confused whether it's a school crossing on a zebra crossing. Exploring this matter further, I've been in contact with both Dorset Council officers and Dorset Police, who are both unable to substantiate this rationale, as there is no national or local data or guidance to base this decision on. Dorset Police have confirmed in writing to me that they had nothing to do with the decision making, and this was purely a Dorset Council decision. It has been confirmed by both Dorset Council and Dorset Police that no risk assessment has been completed for the removal of the school crossing patrol, which seems incredulous. Based on the lack of data and guidance, and more importantly, no risk assessment, how can removal of the school crossing patrol, putting young people's safety at risk, be justified?
Thank you. Now we're going to have your 5th question and answer them both together. So could you now read out your question 5?
Sorry, Madam Chairman, I might have a supplementary to the first question, so I'd rather have an answer to the first one and then ask the second question. Thank you.
Councillor Andrews, are you happy?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services and Member for Sherborne East. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Parks. I understand the respect and strength of feeling in the Ferndown community about the school crossing patrol on Church Road. I recognise the important role the current patrol officer plays in supporting children and families, and I want to place on record my appreciation of the contribution of the school crossing patrol officers across Dorset. This decision is not about reducing safety or withdrawing investment. Dorset Council continues to employ 28 school crossing patrol officers across the county and will continue to fund patrols where they are needed. In Ferndown, 2 zebra crossings have recently been installed following long-standing requests from the local community and local members as part of a significant investment to improve safety on a busy route used by more than 1,500 pupils and around 8,000 vehicles each day. These crossings provide a permanent and clearly marked and legally enforceable place to cross, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where a formal crossing is installed, this becomes the way for people to cross safely. This ensures drivers receive one clear and consistent instruction about when to stop, which is essential for road safety. Operating both together at the same point can introduce conflicting signals about priority and driver responsibility, which is why our approach is to provide a single clear crossing arrangement. This reflects the Council's professional judgment and the consistent approach across Dorset, supported by Dorset Police. I fully recognise the concerns raised locally, particularly regarding driver behaviour and safety, remains our highest priority. Our road safety team, including dedicated school safety officers, will continue to monitor the operation of the crossings and work closely with the school. Dorset Police and the local community, and also Dorset Police and the local community to promote their safe use and encourage driver compliance. In highway design, we use road safety audits, which are effectively a higher level of risk assessment to determine the safety impact of the new highway infrastructure. I can confirm that the new zebra crossings were subject to a formal road safety audit. Our investment in the new zebra crossings help people cross the road safely at all times of day during the term time and school holidays.
Thank you. You want a supplementary on question 4, do you?
Please, Madam Chair, if I may ask us a supplementary. And thank you for your response, Councillor Andrews. So due to the lack of cooperation from both the Cabinet member and officers of Dorset Council, I was forced to submit a Freedom of Information request to Dorset Police and to Dorset Council. Sadly, our Chief Executive chose to ignore the request to meet with her and relevant officers to discuss the FOI. However, the response from both Dorset Council and Dorset Police confirm there are no audits or assessments in place, contrary to what you've just told us, Councillor Andrews. As this was one of the specific parts of my request, is the Cabinet member now telling that Council has failed to comply with the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act?
Councillor Andrews, do you want to come back?
Based on the fact that you're now saying there are assessments in place, and I specifically asked for those as part of the Freedom of Information request, are you telling me now that the Council has failed to provide that information as per the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act?
Thank you, Councillor Parks. I will have to give you a written response on that one. I can't answer you.
Thank you. Now we move on to your question 5, Councillor Parks.
Thank you. And following on from that, and just for a member's information, I will be referring it to the Information Commissioner as well. So question 2 is based on the lack of road safety data and evidence. It would be fair to make the presumption that withdrawal of the school crossing patrol in Church Road, Ferndown, is purely financial based, made solely by the Cabinet holder using executive powers. Based on the fact that the Cabinet are grandstanding on the saving of £169,000, would the Cabinet member consider using some of the funding to keep the young people of Ferndown safe?
I think Councillor Andrews has responded to most of it. Do you want to reply?
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Parks. I can give the same answer as I gave you with the first question because it's all encapsulated in there. But I concede the Council made the decision, but the Council made the decision on the advice of the police and the road safety manager within the Council.
Do you have...
Sorry, and you've had that statement from the police.
Supplementary on that one.
Sorry, thank you. I'd like to see that evidence as part of the actual response and freedom of information request, because you're stating something that the police inspector for Ferndale, or the East Dorset area, the police and crime commissioner, and officers from Dorset Council have denied exists.
No, what I am saying is that a road collision reduction officer who has delegated powers for Dorset Police has written to us and given us that information.
Right, move on to question 6, submitted by Councillor Lugg.
The responsible Cabinet member made an executive decision to amend the policy for the third-party funding of school crossing patrols, which removed the ability for external funding. As local ward councillors, we reached out asking for this to be reconsidered, particularly as a similar arrangement is already in place in Litchfield Minster, with the parish council providing funding. In the interests ensuring parity across Dorset Council, would the Cabinet member revert back to the original policy to enable third parties to further fund the crossing if Dorset Council feels unable to find the funding itself?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Lugg. The situation in Ferndale is far different from the one in Litchfield Travers, not Litchfield Minster. In Litchfield Travers, the zebra crossing was installed. The school crossing patrol at that point was due to stop. However, the parish council, local ward members and the school asked for additional support for children crossing further along the road, away from the zebra crossing, as there is no formal crossing at that location of the school. They chose to fund the patrol there. In Ferndale, 2 zebra crossings have now been installed at the main points where the pupils cross Church Road. These provide clear, permanent crossing points with legal requirements for drivers to stop.
You got a supplementary on that one, Councillor Lugg? Look, we'll go to question 7.
If the council continues with the withdrawal of the school crossing patrol, would the Cabinet member commit to the immediate implementation of measures to reduce the risk to the young people caused by poor parking and driving behaviour at the start and end of the school day, specifically the installation of ANPR cameras in both Mountbatten Drive and Peter Grant Way? Appreciating that there would be a time delay in getting this installed, the immediate implementation of daily patrols by the traffic enforcement team would be welcome.
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you for this question, Councillor Lugg. The council takes concerns about parking and driver behaviour near schools very seriously and works closely within the schools, communities and partners to address these issues. Some of the parking around schools is appalling. I would encourage Councillor Lugg to continue to engage with the road safety team, who can assess the concerns raised in detail and advise on the most appropriate measures. This can include targeted interventions such as additional signage, site-specific improvements and education work with schools. The Council is also preparing to introduce new traffic enforcement powers, which will allow us to take action at occasions like schools where restrictions are not being followed. This requires the introduction of a new enforcement system using ANPR cameras, which is expected to be in place early next year. These cameras can be used to record any moving traffic offence that is breaching traffic regulations. A trial is planned at Upton Junior School, with any wider rollout informed by the results of that trial. These powers also support enforcement where school keep clear markings are not being observed. In some cases, these need to be supported by formal traffic regulation orders, because some of them are not at the moment. They need to be in place before camera enforcement can be used, and this forms part of the wider programme of work. In the meantime, while it is not possible to commit daily enforcement patrols, given the demand across the county, we've got hundreds of schools, I have asked officers to review the concerns at Mountbatten Drive and Peter Grant Way with parking services and consider what proportionate action can be taken.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Lugg?
Can you confirm that we would be considered after Upton, please?
I will make sure you are.
Question 8, submitted by Councillor Vitale.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't repeat the question I submitted in writing. I'll just add that today I visited Stourbridge Primary School and had a look at the porter cabins that are in question. I'm annoyed with myself because part of the porter cabin came off in my hand as I was entering it to look around, and I was going to use it as a prop, but I completely forgot. Just some context. These porter cabins were meant to be replaced when I was at primary school 2 or 3 decades ago, if you can believe it. They're advised to have a lifetime of 10 years. These have been on site for 30 years now. It is simply not acceptable for school children in our council to be in these conditions learning. And as I said in the description in the written question, there were moments in the summer when it's particularly hot when the smell from the toilets was basically affecting the classroom and disrupting teaching. My question is a simple one. Will the council consider part funding the replacement of these porter cabins? They've already saved half the money required to replace one of them. Will they come up with the other half?
Councillor Sutton.
Yeah, Councillor Claire Sutton, Children, Families and Education. Thank you for the question, Councillor Vitale. We recognise the excellent work being undertaken by Stourbridge Primary School and understand the concerns raised regarding the condition of the modular classroom accommodation. The concerns of both the school and the Council's health and safety consultant following a recent site visit are being taken seriously. Officers are already in discussion with the school regarding its proposal to replace the existing accommodation. Further work is required to assess the proposal, the procurement requirements that would need to be followed, and any associated building regulation, planning and delivery considerations. We will also arrange for the existing buildings to be surveyed as soon as possible to provide a formal assessment and help inform options for refurbishment or replacement. The Council will continue discussions with the school regarding its proposal and potential funding implications. However, we cannot commit to a specific financial contribution until this assessment work has been completed. While we will work with the school to explore solutions as quickly as possible, it is unlikely that replacement accommodation could be delivered before the start of the next academic year, given the planning, procurement and construction activities involved.
You guys got a supplementary?
Just briefly, and I thank the Cabinet Member for that response. I know she takes these matters very seriously. She'll know that it's not acceptable for me to go back to the school with that, and I've got to push a bit harder. The savings they've accrued for this replacement are in-year savings, so they're savings they've had to make, or at least tried to make, to get this done this year. Would she agree to come and visit the school personally, meet the headmaster, look at the work that they've been doing, and just see if we can expedite this? Because, frankly, they've already taken quotes on potential replacement porter cabins, and much as I understand the constraints that she set out, I really think we can square this in a shorter time frame, and we owe it to the students of that school.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be delighted to come and visit. We can't commit a particular envelope until specific works have been undertaken, because we're just pulling numbers out of the air. So obviously we're looking at the proposal submitted by the school, and we need to undertake independent, surveys, et cetera, But I'm really hearing you, and given your personal experience that this is so long overdue, I would very much, be happy to come and visit and do what I can to expedite the process if that's if that's what I leave my visit thinking is necessary. Thank you.
I move on to question 9, submitted by Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Julie Robinson, Ferndown South. Can the portfolio holder or relevant Cabinet member explain why so many grass verges across Ferndown have been left uncut for extended periods this year? What is the agreed verge cutting schedule for Ferndown? Why that schedule has not been met in many locations? What action is being taken to ensure all outstanding verge cutting is completed promptly, and what measures would be put in place to prevent the same problems reoccurring? Residents have raised repeated concerns that overgrown verges are creating safety issues by restricting visibility at junctions, making pavements more difficult to use, and giving the area an uncared for appearance. Despite these concerns being raised, many verges are still in an unacceptable condition. So could the council confirm, does the council accept that the current standard of verge maintenance in Ferndown has fallen below residents' reasonable expectations? And if not, why not? Residents deserve reassurance that this basic service will be delivered consistently and to an acceptable standard.
Andrews.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Robinson. As part of Dorset's response to the nature and climate emergency, most urban verges are now cut and collected, usually twice a year. This method was introduced to Ferndown and West Parley for the first time this year. There were public comms and a councillor webinar explaining the change. However, I appreciate this change may not have been expected by all residents, and this method does mean that the verges are taller between cuts. Following the introduction of this change, verges are generally tallest in the first year before the removal of organic material results in lower growth rates. The cutting of verges across Dorset is on schedule. The second cut in Ferndown has started earlier this week, and the team are making good progress. All of Ferndown and West Parley will be cut and collected within the next 2 weeks. The verges will look neat as all clippings will be removed. Cutting and collecting verges twice does mean verges will be slightly taller between cuts, but this method delivers a neat finish once cut and an effective balance of nature and climate objectives while ensuring highway safety.
Like a supplementary, Councillor Robinson? No, thank you. Councillor Beddoe.
Thank you, Chairman. Is that working? Thank you, Chairman. Farm Lane in West Lulworth is a small road off the main road into West Lulworth leading to Shepherd's Way, the Triangle and School Lane. It's not very obvious at the moment for the last 18 months because the sign's not been there. I've also noticed sort of discarded road signs, warning of ice, so it's a little bit worrying that we're not collecting our road furniture, street furniture. So could I ask for a detailed update on maintenance in the area, not least so that people seeking Farm Lane can actually find it?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Beddoe. I recognise the importance of clear and well-maintained signage in helping residents, visitors and emergency services identify locations across our network. After all, I had some, he's not there, little more residents that couldn't find where they lived. I'm also grateful for the assistance provided by the local residents and members in bringing issues such as these to our attention. I can confirm that we have received 2 separate inquiries regarding the missing Farm Lane road sign in West Lulworth in September 2025 and June 2026. Both inquiries are recorded in our Community Highways team, and the sign is included within the current programme of street name sign replacements. While the sign yet has not been made, our Highways team is working through the replacement programme, and I've asked officers to provide an accurate timescale for its manufacture and installation. I will ensure that this update is shared with you directly. Why did it turn off? On occasion, the sign may be overlooked, and I'm grateful when these are reported to us. Following a review of our records, I confirm that we received 1 report concerning a temporary sign in the area, which was reported in August 2024 and promptly collected by our Highways team. We have not received any further reports relating to abandoned signs in this location. So please, if you could give us a bit more detail, we'll come and pick it up. Thank you.
Supplementary on that one? Right, well, we... And then...
Thank you. So this is my second question. This administration has cut the funding for the Arts Development Company, who used to provide support to and generated events with the cultural sector across Dorset. Cultural development has now been brought in-house to Dorset Council. But why does the culture portfolio now sit with the corporate director from Weymouth and Portland? This is not a dig at Matthew Piles. I think he's brilliant, but I just want to know why culture is reserved solely for Weymouth and Portland. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Biggs.
Councillor Richard Biggs, Regeneration, Economic Growth and Strategic Assets, and member for Dorset Poundbury. Thank you for the question, Councillor Beddoe. Following the Chief Executive's review of the senior leadership team, a further review of management roles across the Council is now underway. This will see the role of Corporate Director for Weymouth broadened into a wider role for inclusive economic growth for the whole of the county. This new structure will include arts, leisure and culture alongside tourism to reflect the importance of the visitor economy in Dorset.
Have a supplementary? Thank you. We'll now move on to question 12, submitted by Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Piers Brown. I represent the Cranbourne Chase ward, which, as we know, is the most beautiful ward in Dorset. It is. So, for those that don't know, the Thickthorn junction on the A354, which is the Blandford to Salisbury road, it's a fast, smooth piece of road with some beautiful views, but approximately every 18 months, someone will lose their life at this staggered crossroad on the peak of a hill. Therefore, my question is, the Thickthorn junction on the A354 remains one of Dorset's most deadly accident black spots. When can residents expect data-led action to be taken to improve safety, particularly through the implementation of a roundabout, which is the community's preferred solution?
Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet makes for Place Services and for Sherborne East, the most beautiful town in Dorset. Just thought I'd get that one in, as I finally can. My last question. Thank you for the question, Councillor Brown. The Thickthorn Cross Junction is one of our identified collision cluster sites. We are committed to improving safety through an evidence-led approach. Improvements so far have included maintaining good visibility, road markings and signage. In the last 2 years, we've added 2 high-risk collision signs, giving motorists clearer and earlier warnings of the junction ahead. While these improvements have strengthened safety at the site, reducing speeds is likely to have a positive road safety benefit. We are there preparing to launch a public consultation in August on proposals to reduce the speed limit on the approaches to the junction from 60 to 40. Installing a roundabout here would be comparatively expensive, and roundabouts are often areas where we see increased numbers of collisions. Looking to slow cars down here is the next step we need to take. I'm grateful to Councillor Brown for raising this suggestion and helping to highlight the importance of improving safety at this location.
Want a supplementary?
Thank you. Well, first of all, yeah, I'm sorry, John, it's just not good enough. You know, intervention is about saving people's lives here, and the question was very specific. It was about data-led decision-making, and you'll be aware of some of my concerns about how the methodology of the traffic safety team is being implemented. So I'd just like to read you this quote from an officer who I will not name out of respect. "We do not have the capacity to model speed limit reductions in advance. To secure additional resources for major works, we must demonstrate that less expensive options have at least been considered, possibly implemented. Skipping this step would likely result in pushback and frustration from within the community and Dorset Council being accused of doing nothing. What that says to me is we would rather be seen to do 2 things that fail than 1 thing that works. And therefore, I want to know what the advice you're going to give to your cabinet member who's going to take over your role. Is it the methodology that we're using that's flawed, or do we just not have the right amount of funding in place to do things that work?"
Councillor Andrews.
I need to refer that to my officers to get back to you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andrews, thank you for all the questions you've answered this evening. We'll now to question 13 submitted by Councillor Legg.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Robin Legg, Sherborne Rural. In just a few days from now, Andy Burnham will become the country's next. In just a few days from now, Andy Burnham will become the country's next Prime Minister. He's already indicated that he's open to changing how property and land is taxed. Some commentators believe that stamp duty and council tax are in his sights. If that change is signalled, will the leader extend an invitation to the Prime Minister to visit Dorset so that we can impress upon him how unfair the present council tax system is for our residents, where 3/4 of all our funding comes from that source?
Councillor Ireland.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Legg. So, if as widely expected, Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister in the coming days, I would be delighted to invite him to Dorset. Indeed, I suspect he'll find no shortage of people willing to explain why the current system of local government finance no longer works for many rural areas. Mr Burnham has recently spoken about the need to reform property taxation, describing council tax as a regressive system based on property values that are, as we all know, more than 3 decades out of date. He has also indicated that he is open to wider reforms involving stamp duty and the taxation of land and property. While we await the detail of any proposals, I would welcome a serious national conversation about how local government is funded and whether the current arrangements remain fair for residents and councils alike. For Dorset, the issue is particularly acute. Over 3/4 of our core funding come from council tax, leaving local residents shouldering a far greater share of the burden than is the case for many other parts of the country. Dorset residents pay for services across a large rural geography, with an older population, dispersed communities and higher service delivery costs, yet we continue to receive less government support per head than many urban authorities. However, council tax is only one part of the picture. Mr Burnham has been very strong in advocating for devolving power away from Whitehall and giving local areas greater control over investment, skills, transport, housing and economic development. On that principle, I believe there is considerable common ground with his approach and what Dorset Council, Somerset Council, Wiltshire Council and Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole councils have been arguing through the Wessex Partnership. We have made the case that rural and coastal areas deserve the same opportunities as the major city regions. Yet Wessex remains one of the largest areas of England without the devolved powers and investment that many other parts of the country now enjoy. The consequence of this is that residents and businesses here continue to miss out on significant streams of funding that are increasingly reserved for devolved areas. So if the new Prime Minister is serious about rebalancing the economy, tackling regional inequalities and empowering local communities, I would encourage him to look beyond the major metropolitan areas and visit Dorset. He would see firsthand both the challenges and opportunities of rural England, world-leading businesses, nationally important defence and clean energy sectors, thriving market towns, outstanding natural landscapes, and there are others in Cranbourne Chase, and communities that contribute enormously to the national economy. My message to him would be straightforward. Reforming council tax would be welcome if it results in a fairer system for residents, but alongside that, we need fairer rural funding, genuine devolution for Wessex, and the powers and long-term investment needed to allow our communities to fulfil their potential. So Dorset is ready, Wessex is ready. We simply need a government willing to give rural England the same tools that is already provided elsewhere. So I hope that answers your question, and it's a lot longer than my original one, which was yes. So.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Legg?
Yeah, very briefly, Madam Chairman. I'm delighted in that reply. Can I suggest to the leader that his response, which I agree with wholeheartedly, is copied to all members of Parliament in this county?
Okay. We'll now then move on to question 14 submitted by Councillor Legg.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How many Freedom of Information requests have been received by Dorset Council since the formation of the authority in 2019? And of those, how many have been referred to the Information Commissioner's Office for determination, and with what result?
Councillor Ireland.
Thank you. This is a lot shorter answer. Since the formation of Dorset Council in April 2019, we have received 10,387 FOIs, and also to say environmental information requests as well. We don't formally record the number of requests appealed to the Information Commissioner's Office, brackets ICO. However, since 1st of April 2019, the indicative number is 38. These are generally resolved informally before the ICO completes their investigations, though any decision notice for requests formally resolved by the ICO can be found on their website. This site currently indicates that 7 Dorset Council cases received an ICO judgment, of which 2 were partially upheld.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Legg? No, thank you. We'll now move on to question 15, submitted by Councillor Monks.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward. Bedminster has experienced an increased number of power cuts over the last 2 years, causing significant disruption to residents, businesses and particularly vulnerable members of the community. Whilst I recognise that Dorset Council does not have direct responsibility for the electricity network, will the Council support local efforts to lobby National Grid and network operators to identify and upgrade failing infrastructure, and what steps will it take to strengthen consideration of power resilience within its planning policies and emergency planning arrangements, both of which is in the Council's control?
Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Monks, for your question. Cabinet Member for Planning and Planning Enforcement and Ward Member for Wimble Minster, I should say. Councillor Monks, thank you for your question, which raises an important issue facing Dorset. We recognise the frustrations this causes, and we remind residents that they can call 105 in the event of an incident, as well as viewing maps of outages and planned maintenance online. We also encourage any vulnerable individuals or their carers to register for the Priority Services Register for extra support in the event of disruption. As we know, power cuts are already happening due to events such as extreme weather, and these risks will increase with climate change. Meeting this requires better infrastructure, better inspections and maintenance, and emergency preparedness and response. Partly in recognition of this, I previously set up a cross-party task and finish group to consider the grid. I'm pleased to say there has been good progress since then, from new off-gen requirements and a performance standard to ground compensation for power cuts, a new network operator that set new standards on outages in force from December, and a forthcoming government energy resilience strategy. These will enable us to do more locally in 3 ways. First, we can work with network operators on our new plans and strategies, in particular the new local plan, the Wessex Spatial Development Strategy, and a Dorset Climate Adaptation Strategy. Second, the forthcoming new regional energy boards will provide a stronger means for us to engage strategically with them on network resilience. And third, network operators are already Category 2 responders under the Civil Contingencies Act 2003, meaning they engage with us on a multi-agency emergency planning and response through our local resilience forum. We will continue to engage network operators through the local resilience forum on this. Thank you.
Do you want a supplementary? No. We'll now move on to the last question submitted by Councillor Borden.
Thank you, Chairman. Belinda Borden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth. The Today programme recently reported 2,700 excess deaths in the first 2 heat waves in the UK, mostly people over 65 years old with underlying health conditions. The Committee on Climate Change has been forecasting for years that heat waves will be the silent killer. As the county with the oldest population with some of the highest temperatures and hours of sunshine in the UK, we have a particular duty of care to our residents, workers and visitors to adapt to our changing climate and protect ourselves from extreme heat. Could Dorset Council offer more guidance to schools, care homes and public and community buildings about mitigating the impact of high temperatures and humidity? Is there any scope to introduce a bylaw to set a maximum working temperature? Specifically, we need to support and enable the fast rollout of air conditioning for schools, care homes, hospitals, alongside other measures, including natural and installed shading. Did the decarbonisation of the Dorset Council schools estate and our community and business buildings under the Low Carbon Dorset EU-funded programme include heat pumps with air conditioning? And what else could and should Dorset Council be doing to protect ourselves from the impacts of extreme heat and humidity in our rapidly changing climate? Apologise for multiple questions.
Thank you. Councillor Ireland.
Yes, thank you, Belinda. Yes, multiple questions. I'll answer them all. So extreme heat is becoming one of the most significant climate-related risks facing Dorset. As a county with an older than average population, we know that prolonged periods of high temperatures and humidity can have serious consequences for people's health and well-being, particularly for older residents and those with underlying health conditions. Preparing Dorset for a changing climate is therefore a key priority for this council and is reflected both in our council plan and our nature, environment, climate and ecology strategies. When it comes to preparing for and responding to heat waves, we work closely with partners through the Dorset Local Resilience Forum. During the recent hot weather, we established an incident management team to coordinate our response and share advice with staff, schools, care providers and local communities. Our adult social care teams also work with providers to support vulnerable residents at the most risk from extreme heat, while working with NHS colleagues to help maintain the flow of people being discharged from hospital. I agree that the guidance and awareness are an important part of building resilience. Extensive national guidance already exists for schools, care providers, employers and public buildings, but we recognise the value of ensuring that this information is more widely understood and accessible locally. As part of our wider adaptation work, we will continue to consider how best to support organisations and communities across Dorset in preparing for hotter summers. More broadly, we're assessing the potential impacts of climate change on the Council's services, assets, workforce and communities, while working with partners to develop a countrywide climate adaptation strategy. County-wide, I should say, I didn't say countrywide. This will help identify the actions needed to make Dorset more resilient to the effects of climate change, including extreme heat. In relation to our buildings, previous decarbonisation programmes have primarily focused on reducing carbon emissions rather than addressing overheating. The funding criteria available at the time did not provide for air conditioning installations. While many heat pumps are technically capable of providing cooling as well as heating, the schemes were funded and delivered primarily as decarbonisation measures rather than cooling solutions. Looking ahead, new funding frameworks provide greater scope to consider cooling and air conditioning alongside carbon reduction, where this can be justified as part of improving a building's resilience to extreme heat. It is increasingly clear that climate adaptation must sit along decarbonisation. Through our strategic asset management programme, we will continue to consider opportunities to improve the resilience of council buildings through measures such as shading, tree planting, green infrastructure, improved ventilation, and, where appropriate, active cooling. On the specific issue of air conditioning, there is unlikely to be a single solution for every single building. Our approach should be to prioritise passive measures that reduce overheating in the first instance, while recognising that some settings, particularly those supporting vulnerable people, may require active cooling solutions as temperatures continue to rise. With regard to workplace temperatures, there is currently no maximum legal working temperature in the UK, and local authorities do not have the powers to introduce a bylaw to set one. Employers do, however, have a legal duty to assess and manage risks to their workforce, including those arising from excessive heat, and national guidance in this area is currently under review. Alongside our work on heat resilience, we are also investing in flood preparedness and embedding climate risks within our planning, transport, nature recovery and asset management strategies. Taken together, these measures will help ensure that Dorset's communities, services and infrastructure are better prepared for the changing climate that we do know lies ahead. And I will just end with any member of this council who likes more information, just contact Anthony Littlechild and his team, and they'll be more than happy to give the information.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Borden?
So, in terms of ward members being able to input to community resilience planning and identifying where we think our vulnerable communities are, which portfolio holder would be the best to contact to talk about that?
I would suggest either myself or Councillor Bell, to be honest, or both of us. We are, and copying Katie Dawes, who's leading on our climate adaptation strategy.
Thank you. And thank you all for all the questions. Now we move on to item 13. There are no urgent items. Item 14, there's no exempt business. So thank you all very much for coming and sitting in this very hot chamber. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the summer.